something from 1959, so bear with me one second. Tell me if this kind of sounds familiar or hits home to you. Your children's children will live under communism. You Americans are so gullible. No, you won't accept communism outright, but we will keep feeding you small doses of socialism until you will finally wake up and find you already have communism. We will not have to fight you. We will so weaken your economy until you fall like overripe fruit into our hands. The democracy will cease to exist when you take away those who are willing to work and give to those who would rather not. So this was a speech in 1959, and there was 8 levels of control. Tell me if any of this kind of sounds familiar. Healthcare, control healthcare, and you control the people. Number 2, poverty. Increase the poverty level as high as possible. Poor people are easier to control and will not fight back if you are providing everything for them. Number 3, debt. Increase the debt to an unsustainable level. That way you are able to increase taxes, and this will produce more poverty. Number 4, gun control. Remove the ability to defend themselves from the government. That way you are able to create a police state. Number 5, welfare. Take control of every aspect, food, housing, income of their lives, because that will make them fully dependent on the government. Number 6, education. Take control of what people read and listen to, and take control of what children learn in school. Number 7, religion. Remove the belief in God from the government and schools, because the people need to believe in only the government, knowing what's best for the people. Number 8, class warfare. Divide the people into the wealthy and the poor. Eliminate the middle class. This will cause more discontent, and it'll be easier to tax the wealthy with the support of the poor. This, folks, is exactly where we're headed if we don't start voting right.
Guys, I saw this video the other day, and I felt like it was so necessary to share. Very poignant. And this was again, if you watch the video, this was something that was written in the 50s. And I can't remember exactly what year he quoted, but guys, we need to pay attention, because this is what's on the ballot in November. And if we don't start waking up, and I know my audience, our audience, mine and Jarrett's audience, the 511 audience, y'all are the active people, most likely, most of y'all. Y'all are, good morning, Brock. Y'all are the ones that are out there fighting on the front lines. A lot of you guys are the ones, but we need to be bringing people to the polls. We need to be bringing people to vote, because how many of you guys know people, and you can drop it in the comments if you're one of them. How many of you guys know people that don't vote? They're like, I don't like either side, so I'm just not going to vote. This is the future we're facing if we don't speak up. This is the future that our children are facing. And, so as I saw this morning, I was thinking, man, I wanted to start with something funny. And I hate always being so heavy-hearted, but I think it's just in my nature, guys. So, I felt like something that God's been speaking to me, a couple things. And Jarrett, I'd like you to pipe up here in a second. But number 1, and these are 2 calls that I feel like 511 has. And guys, y'all know this isn't about me. This is about the mission. This is about the mission that God has us on the call that we have for our life. But number 1 is no longer the silent majority. We cannot be the silent majority. We hear all this talk about silent majority and everybody staying silent. That's the mission of 511, is to stop being silent, to amplify voices that are doing God's work, to amplify the voices that are speaking out against the evil. And guys, we've been deplatformed before, and I ain't afraid of that. I ain't afraid of them trying to make us quiet. I ain't afraid of the haters. In fact, if you're doing anything for God, there's going to be haters. And that's how you know you're on the right track, is the people coming out of the woodwork. And sometimes it's people that are closest to us that will say things or try to bring us down at times. But don't let that discourage you guys, because the call that God has on our life is too important to ignore. So I've had a couple conversations over the last couple of days about how do we find our calling, and I've had 2 things to say about that. And number 1 is we find our calling, or we don't find our calling. Our calling finds us when we're in the middle of serving God. And that serving is whatever's right in front of you. Your calling isn't some far off thing that is, what's going to take us 10 years to accomplish. Now, ultimately, that may be true, but the initial start of your path is what's right in front of you. And God will make it very clear and very, very apparent to you guys. But once we understand that calling, once we know that this is where God's leading us, we pursue that with reckless abandon. And guys, I know Jarrett, I know me, I know the rest of our team. We're not going to let anything stop us. We're not going to let the trolls in the comments. Bring it. That just fuels us. We're not going to let the social media platforms that try to take our content down. I know myself, and we even talked about this on our show yesterday. You guys, we had a great show. Guys, go check that out if you get an opportunity. We had like 10 people on that call that are all patriots. Some of them former, including, I think, Jared, correct me if I'm wrong, yourself, former liberals that, had the wool removed from their eyes. And we're all pursuing it because we've seen the truth, and we need America to wake up, because what this guy said in this video, and we're going to be sharing this out, by the way. Go follow at Real Mike Harvey on X, because I try to make a point to share all of the videos that we share on this show over there for you guys to see. And also, if you get a chance, if you can, help us promote what we're doing here at 511. Share our content out, like, subscribe, do all those things. But God will give you the strength. God will give you supernatural strength. And I find it so interesting that as we continue to pursue those things, and as the trolls and the haters come out of the woodwork to attack us, it's almost like God's converting that into the fuel that drives us forward. And the things that God calls us to do will probably be the hardest thing you'll ever do. And it's an interesting line, because you know the things that God's calling you to, because while it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do, at the same time, he opens massive doors. Huge doors swing on small hinges, and you'll see God's handwriting all over it. And I want to thank, and y'all know who you are. I'm not going to call you out on video here, firstly, because I don't have your permission to do so. But y'all know who you are. I've received multiple confirmations and multiple words from God that I know have lined up in the past 48 hours, Renata and I both, that we know that it's been confirmation that we're hitting a vein. We're on the track that God's called us to. So, but at the same time, know that when we're going through those hard things, God will put us through the fire. God will put us through things because he needs to prepare us, and we need to be toughened. We need to grow thicker skin, because I know over the past 10 years, personally, myself and my family have been through some things that could have broken a lot of people. But I know God needed to put us through it to prepare us for what his calling is. And I haven't necessarily had direct conversation with you, Jarrett, about this, but I would probably expect that you've been through some things as well that God's used to prepare you.
Yeah, my time in the military, being injured, taking care of my sick and alien father, being a single father, raising two kids by yourself since they're 2 and 4, all this stuff prepared me for this journey. And also my strong Christian values. I used to be a bleeding heart liberal. And then I started to realize this was wrong. The more I got into the word, the more I realized this stuff was wrong. And it's really funny. When Trump said, "Hey, black people, what do you got to lose?" My fiance turned to me like, "See, let's think about this. What do we have to lose?" And we deep dived into all of this stuff and realized we were conservatives and liberals were destroying our country, and also specifically destroying black and brown communities. And the one thing that you mentioned about amplifying voices, yes, you have to use your voice whether you're scared. People are going to say stuff about you regardless. I get death threats all the time. I remember when this one guy reached out to me and said, "I hope your whole family dies of COVID." And another lady, I was at an event, I'm outside, it was a conservative event. She walks up to me and she said, "Don't you know they think you're the N-word?" But she used the actual word. And I'm just looking around, I ignore her because it's what liberals do. But I do realize one thing: when you open yourself to God and open yourself to conservative values, and your family attacks you and some friends attack you, God will replace those people and give you a whole new family. When I was out here by myself doing this, God brought me to Blexit. He brought me to Turning Point UA. He put people in my life like Paul, who we're going to interview later, who are on the same journey that we are, and it just created this extended family. And I know I'm on the right path because, like you said, I get confirmation from the Lord. I get confirmation from people that I know I'm doing right. I might get 100 death threats or people call me all sorts of names, but then I'll get a call from someone saying, hey, thank you. What you said has changed me. I'm scared to talk about it, but now I'm voting Trump. Or now I'm bringing my family to church. And at the end of the day, it's all worth it.
Amen. Amen. So, guys, couple quick things before we get into the content. First of all, we want to acknowledge one of our longtime sponsors, Covenant Coffee. Covenant Coffee is doing some great things in Kern County, Bakersfield. They're available online around the world. CovenantCoffee.org. Guys, not only are they on a great mission from God, they're supporting the emancipated foster youth, providing jobs, training, and all these things. But their coffee is phenomenal. And only coffee we're drinking here in 511 Studios. They got K-cups, they got grounds, they got beans, they got all the things you might need for your coffee and stuff from all over the world. They're doing some really cool things with some of the impoverished nations that produce the coffee that we drink, and in sustainable ways. But guys, go check them out. CovenantCoffee.org. Support them online, or if you're in Bakersfield, right across the street from us at Mohawk in California, or on North Chester. And we also have a couple events we want to highlight and bring to your guys' attention, both of which Jarrett, Renata, myself, and several members of our team will be at. The first one is one of our biggest supporters, America Fest, from brought to you by TPUSA. Go ahead, Darius, and roll that video.
What you represent, your presence here, that the largest multi-day event in conservative grassroots history. Is a message that will be heard by these people.
Phoenix, Arizona, people from all over the country.
It's remarkable because it brings everybody
One of
together.
my favorite of the year.
Energy, let us want you to see it.
The stakes are high. We have only begun to fight.
We should actually, Jarrett, do an episode about top 10 reasons to go to Amfest, because one of the reasons that I haven't thought of, because I'm not this person, Jarrett is if you think you're alone because you've been a liberal all your life and you don't have any brothers around you or sisters around you that are conservative, and you're looking for your people who are now your people because the people that you thought were your people are actually against you. That's one of the biggest reasons to be there. Guys, go check it out, amfest.com, online, December 19th through the 22nd at Phoenix, Arizona. We'll see y'all there. And the next one is coming up super soon, and if you're in the area, I'll be there. Many of our friends will be there. Jared, I'll let you announce this one.
Yep, it's going to be an amazing event. Shout out to Tammy and Timothy for always tuning in. Love you guys. So yeah, our event taking place in September is the Blexit Night of Faith. We're doing them all across the country. This one's in Philadelphia, in Indolite Church. It's hosted by Pastor Jamie Centino, amazing pastor. It's going to be from 5 to 7. We're going to have Pierre Wilson, Michaela Montgomery, Madeline Brame, Pastor Lorenzo Sewell. You guys seen majority of these people at the RNC. So come see this event. It's free. We're going to have some food, some fellowship. some amazing praise and worship by Rakita Harper. Her voice is, you guys, out of this world. If you've ever been to a Blexit event, you know exactly what I'm talking about. She's amazing. So I'll be there. Mike's going to be there. Renata. I hope to see you guys there too. It's going to be fantastic.
That's right. And so now, comes the moment we're excited about, getting to talk to our guests. And Jared, I always let you do the honors of announcing our guest.
So, guys, we have an amazing guest today. We have Paul Lund, who's currently a public high school science teacher, who actually follows the science and maintains a healthy skepticism around the scientific claims and government-funded studies. He's a co-leader in the New Jersey Chapter of TPUSA-Faith-NJ and Cherry Hill, and the Quest for Academic Excellence, on the leadership team for the Mordecai Mission. And personally, I want to brag on Paul for a second. He is so helpful. He's such boots on the ground. He connects everyone in New Jersey and the tri-state area with other conservatives. I mean, he's a catalyst for a lot of actions taking place, and he's so humble about it too. He's not doing it for himself. He's not doing it for accolades. He's really doing it because he cared, and he's a strong Christian man, but he's a true man of science. So we need more people like him. And in my own life, Paul has been so influential, has helped me so much and opened so many doors. The same thing Mike was talking about earlier when you become a conservative. So I do owe a lot to Paul, and I really, truly appreciate him taking his time to be with us today.
Yeah, that's right. And so, Paul, we want to welcome you to kind of do a little intro for you. We're going to play a little video first. Go ahead and do that, Darius.
The Democrats were so opposed to the Republicans and their anti-slavery stance that in 1860, just 6 weeks after the election of the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, South Carolina, a state dominated by Democrats, voted to secede from the Union. The Civil War that followed was the bloodiest war in U.S. history. It led to the passage by Republicans of the 13th Amendment, which freed the slaves, the 14th Amendment, which gave them citizenship, and the 15th Amendment, which gave them the vote. In 1870, the first black senator and the first black congressman were sworn in, both Republicans. In fact...
What? Did you know that?
What?
That the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, which freed the slaves, gave rights to black people, and allowing them to vote, was all passed by Republicans. Then the first black senator and first black congressman was Republican.
I didn't know that.
Guys, don't let the woke mob gaslight you into thinking that what they're calling conservatives, what they're calling Republicans, is racist when they're the very ones who are doing that. Those are the things that Paul, Mr. Lund, stands for. We all agree with. But Paul is teaching real science, not fake science, in school classrooms over in New Jersey, and also doing some really cool things in the community. So, Paul, welcome.
Thank you, Mike. And I put Mr. Lund there only in my capacity as science teacher. What the kids call me, guys, please, Paul is fine.
Awesome. No, we love it. And we know, our kids are homeschooled, but they go to some programs, and they obviously go to church and stuff. They always call if you were one of their teachers or one of their school or church leaders, they would call you Mr. Paul.
Right. I get that once in a while too. And a few other choice words. I'm teaching in an alternative high school, and the kids that are bussed in here, they call the term now when they don't want to go to school refusal. So these are kids that no longer want to go to their public school, of zip code school, but are now bussed here as a kind of an alternative setting, and maybe even a last chance to graduate with their peers. So it's an interesting community. Yeah.
What school is it now? I know you told me earlier, but HAS is an acronym for the school you teach at.
It's very fancy. Hillcrest Academy South.
Yeah, it is. It is fancy. And is that a private school, Paul?
No, it is an alternative public high school.
Okay. Now, what does that mean, alternative?
Well, like I said, Mike, when a traditional setting or the first choice for kids is whatever their zip code dictates, that's the government school that they'll go to. And if they're not going to school and they're not getting credits, but they want to keep them somehow in the system and keep them in district and keep those tax dollars rolling, we're the alternative. Now, we could have been a private. I've worked for alternative high schools that were private contractors to the public schools. Still public school students, still technically within the district, but it could be private or it could be public. Mine happens to be a public alternative to the public school.
Got it. And we don't do that out here in California. We talked about this morning, and not I wouldn't even say apparently, but obviously, we're both in competition. Our states are, to see who can be the bluest and the most socialist. I know Jarrett's over there with you in New Jersey as well. But what is it like teaching in those classroom environments? Do you get a lot of hate?
I get a lot of, I wouldn't say hate directed at me, because if that's how I felt about it, I might not want to continue on. I think it's more anger, circumstantial anger, unrest. I think it's a lot of fear, but it comes off as they try to come off like they're tough guys and tough gals. But I think it's still a children's fear, anger, and upset that's coming out, and I've learned, not perfectly, but I've learned not to take things personally. It's got oftentimes nothing to do with me, so I tend to deflect it. I try to show I use humor, sarcasm, and grace as much as I can to disarm what they throw against me.
So living in New Jersey, I know firsthand how woke these school districts are. You and I have been on the front line together, protesting, trying to get some of these parents' rights. So as a teacher in this system, how do you feel the school district, how do you feel the teachers union plays a factor in what goes on in these woke schools?
Well, we went to the NEA convention in Philadelphia, and we were holding up signs. We had a handful of people. The teachers union, first of all, I had opportunities in my 15-year career to join the union. The reason why I refuse is, in general, I don't agree with the concept of a union. I don't agree with collective bargaining. It smacks of communism to me, because now you're negotiating benefits for the best teachers and the worst teachers, and they're protected. And I say, if I'm not demonstrating my worth and they want to get rid of me, I'm happy to move on. I don't want to have someone protecting me in a job if they're not seeing that I'm doing it satisfactorily. So in concept, I don't agree with the union. And quite honestly, the unions are political. They're partisan. I've been in schools where they actually gave literature for the Democrat candidate, where they encouraged all the union membership to vote Democrat all the time. And so they've now gone from just being partisan to being activists. There was a seminar for teachers in New Jersey about radical pedagogy, where they want the teachers to become activists, and they want to stir up grievances among the students so they can become political activists as well.
Let's dig into that a little bit, Paul, because that's something that I think I might have heard a little bit about before, but it's almost portrayed as fake, conservative rhetoric, when in reality that's exactly what's going on. Firsthand as a teacher, what goes on. So let's dig into how they're doing that and kind of some of the details of that, because that's really interesting.
Well, teaching is a second career, first of all, but I'm 61 years old. Even before I started teaching, I knew that there was a lot of things that were being propagandized, where science was becoming a corrupt enterprise. And I mean, I'm talking going back to when they used to call it AGW, anthropomorphic global warming. Do you remember global warming, which is now climate change? And I remember seeing youth in my neighborhood who were really upset about the end of the world by way of CO2, by way of plant food. And I'm saying, why are they putting such fear into these kids? What's the deal with this? And I mean, that was maybe 30 years ago. And they've continued now to find a lot of different areas that they can actually get kids activated about, triggered about. And so radical pedagogy is getting them on board with that concept called social justice, getting them on board with DEI, and as Dr. Jordan Peterson likes to say, DEI must die. I mean, these are just ways to manipulate children. And I just got to get out the fact that social justice, as we all know, is not justice at all. Group justice is not justice. You know, making out entire groups as victims and another entire group as perpetrators, that's not true justice. Justice is blind. Justice is equal application of the law. It's actually called a liberal justice system. Liberal, you guys have thrown it around because it's become a dirty word, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, they're looking to make social justice warriors. That's what radical pedagogy attempts to do, and they're looking for them to uphold this gender queer ideology, which does have its roots in cultural Marxism.
Yeah, I love that you talked on cultural Marxism. I know you do a lot in your own life to fight against it, but can you touch on it for people who are watching who might not know what it is? And can you point out some examples currently in the school system?
There's a guy named James Lindsay. I'm sure you guys are well familiar, and he's got Discourse's website. And listen, I'm a science guy. I got to be willing to question things and dig around and be a skeptic. Science calls people to be skeptical. You know, if everyone believes one thing and one scientist proves something contrary, then all that consensus goes out the window. So cultural Marxism has its roots in Frankfurt School of Marxism. Back in the 1930s, they were wondering why Marxism didn't take hold in the United States. Usually it was enough just to talk to the have-nots about why the haves have what they have and why you don't have anything. And it was about appealing to generally the poor and becoming allies in the revolution, right? But they couldn't make that same appeal in the United States, apparently for two reasons. Number one, the way our system is, capitalism, allowed for much more upward mobility, right? So poor didn't necessarily have to stay poor. And number two, being a country that was faith-based, even the poor were contented in their lot because they knew they had better promises in the next life. So they couldn't rabble-rouse in the same way. So they had to find groups of people who were, in a way, socially outcast, one reason or another. And that's why, they looked at the races, they looked at the Black experience, and they looked at sexuality, and these other social aspects became their target. Now, never mind the roots of Black poverty. Never mind, the permanent underclass that was created by the welfare state, 3 generations of replacing a breadwinner with a paycheck. Let's disregard that completely. No, it's all about racism. That's what's holding them down. Even after a President Barack Obama, even after civil rights. See, the Marxist is taught to be ruthlessly critical of the system that they're going to dismantle. Ruthlessly critical means there's no room to look at all the great things that have happened in this country.
So true.
I'm gonna leave it there because, I don't want to fill the next half hour. I can go on, man. I could go on.
No, it's all good. But this is the narrative that's been pushed by the media for decades. And actually, we have a little video I want to play real quick on that, Darius, if we could bring it up.
What's the biggest threat to America?
The media.
Why?
The media is the enemy of the people. Take a look at the Trump versus Biden debate, that first debate that ever happened. Before that debate, the media was all in with Biden, was promoting him, was saying that it was a right-wing conspiracy if you say that Biden is senile, Biden has dementia, Biden has lost his step, and Biden is not in control. Then the debate happens, and the largest audience ever of American people, but also the world, had now seen on that stage that Biden cannot complete a sentence. Keep in mind, they've known this the whole time. This guy has been cooked since 2020. And then immediately the media changes tune, saying Biden's senile, Biden's this, Biden's that. The media switches and changes up, and then they usher in Kamala. They literally attempted a coup on Biden, and they were successful. No one voted for Kamala to be the Democratic nominee. For the party that says that Trump is this huge threat to democracy, that was one of the most anti-democratic things that I have ever seen. And so now the media is fully on board with Kamala. They're saying that she's ahead in the polls. How do they conduct the polls? I've never been called by CNN. Have you?
No.
I've never been called by Washington Post. I've never been polled. The media is what causes divide. It causes racial divide. It causes family divide. It causes political divide. It causes fear, uncertainty. It makes people feel like the world's ending, when if you just come outside and touch grass, life's pretty good. So I think the media is the enemy of the people. The media is the biggest threat to the American public and to the world. They're just complete liars and cappers and frauds and scammers.
And so, we talk about cultural Marxism and the mainstream media, and guys, y'all know this. If you're part of our audience, most likely you're going to know this. It's not just the liberal media. And I'm not going to name names, but big mainstream conservative media is gaslighting us too. And we've talked about. We've shared this video. I believe we shared it. If not, we need to share it. What's that, Paul?
Me, Paul?
Oh, I heard something. Maybe it was a video. So we talked about this before, and this was a video that we shared that Charlie was talking about. The Christian nation that was established, mostly Christian interjection into the Constitution, into the Declaration of Independence. It only works when the majority of the people are Christian. So when they've been trying to push that out of the courthouses, out of the school systems, which you're in, Paul, out of society at large, they're naturally only going to go one direction. So we spoke about earlier. This isn't, and I can't remember if we did this on, when we were live streaming or not, but y'all know that I've said this many times. We're not fighting against flesh and blood. It's not left and right. It's not blue versus red. It's not conservative, Democrat, liberal, Republican. It's good versus evil. The things that's going on, and so. You see a lot of talk, and we've heard a lot of talk, and the reality is this is where we're headed. Communism, the government, is trying to be replaced as our God. And without a belief in God, there's only one thing to believe in, and that's ourselves, and that's the systems of this world. And who do you think's pushing that agenda more than anybody? It's the forces of darkness, and guys, we need to wake up. That's being instituted through the media, through the government, through a lot of the policies of the left and some of the right as well. I'm not gonna try to paint an all rosy picture that the right is perfect and the left is evil. You got bad people on both sides. You also got good people on both sides. To misquote Trump, as the media tries to do all the time, right? But guys, this is what's being pushed down our throats in the school systems. They're trying to indoctrinate our children, and Jared and I go on tirades all the time. I'll continue to do it as the role of parents in the household. But Paul, what have you seen in the school system when it comes to how they've been trying to implement this and indoctrinate our children?
I mean, there's two fronts right now. I've been going to Board of Ed meetings in my town for 2 years to talk about the transdemic, the transing of the kids, and the sex ed. They have in New Jersey a new set of comprehensive physical education, health and phys ed standards, and they're teaching all the different ways of having sex, and they're teaching it. They're pushing it down very early. By second grade, they need to know about gender as a choice, that your girl parts don't make you a girl and your boy parts don't make you a boy. By 8th grade, they're teaching them consent, when to say yes and when to say no to sex. So by 14, they're giving them the opportunity to think that they have enough education to make those decisions, to consent to sex. And they say, again, that is that a right-wing conspiracy talking about MAPS, minor attracted persons? Are they pushing pedophilia down the road? Is that the slippery slope we're on? And they say, no. But you know what? When you're telling 14-year-olds that they can make a decision about who, how, and when to have sex, I don't know. That seems an awful lot like that dirty word they don't like, grooming. And we could go on from there about the science of guys, we're Christian here. We know that all sin begins with what? A thought.
Yep.
That's all. There's no science. There's no gene behind gay. There's no gene behind trans. It's a thought that becomes an obsession. And that is an obsession that you can either have a group of medical people and counselors indulge in that obsession and affirm it, or you can have what they used to have, some reasonable attempt to counsel, to work through those thoughts, to untangle where they're coming from. It used to be 2 years of psychotherapy for adults who were considering transitioning. Now they're affirming kids right away because of a Dutch study that was full of confirmation bias.
We all know the truth, Paul. That's not the reason. That's just the excuse that they're using.
Right.
It's an agenda to really. I think. Yeah. I think all of you guys are awake enough to realize, like our audience, again, we're not preaching to the uninformed. I think we're talking to mostly the informed here. But guys, I say all the time, follow the money. It's all about the money, and to look at how much money. If you really dive into it, and we've had people. We'll continue to have more people on here who are experts on this subject that talk about where the money goes and the medical system and the corruption. And I'm not saying every doctor is corrupt. I'm not saying every person that works in these fields is corrupt. What I am saying is the leadership is, and the systems are broken. And that's what we're ultimately pushing back against is these systems of corruption and the oppression of darkness that's come across and upon these industries.
Yes,
it is a multi-billion-dollar industry. I'm sorry, Jared, please.
I'm going to say it's so apparent that we stand up and we fight against these things. And as I was thinking, you mentioned the school board meetings that you attend. I remember that you get people from all across the state to come to various school board meetings, come to various rallies. I think one of our first interactions, I was speaking at a school choice a diner with a group of people. And I love that you're all about unity, because we were talking earlier in the interview about the importance of coming together. So, Paul, why is it so important that you unify all these nonprofits in New Jersey to fight this? And how has unifying with these nonprofits helped your mission?
Yeah, we did this rally in Trenton, our capital in Jersey, and our vision for that was, even though we had 10 nonprofits represented, we wanted them to come just as human beings. We wanted them to preach beyond their audience. We didn't want them just throwing red meat to their particular groups. I wanted to have a happening, to coin something from the 60s. I'm a big believer that a lot of the nonprofits are all competing for the same, volunteers and the same donors, and that the parietal system is in operation. That 90% of the work is done by 10% of the people. A lot of these guys are burned out. They're like, they're doing most of the work. And like I said, it seems like they're almost at odds with each other. And my vision and my belief, under the covering of people of faith, under the covering of the Great Commission, really, to pull in a lot of nonprofits together and to orchestrate a movement. You talked about, Mike, the silent majority. Today, with canceling people and groups, it's the silenced majority. There's a pressure there so that you don't come off as a hater, so you don't as judgmental and intolerant, that people keep their views suppressed. I think if we have a larger movement of nonprofits who put aside their little piece and occasionally at least come together in force, that's where you have impact, and that's where people are willing to come out of the shadows. They're going to be, drawn to a movement like that. Yeah.
Paul, let's talk about how do you handle. So we have people, and I have an answer, and I'll share it here as well. But how do you handle people who try to call you names and try to say all these things? Because how many times? And I'm sure, Paul, you're right in the same boat. And Jarrett, you're pretty close to the same description. We get called the white Christian nationalist. We get called racist. Even Jarrett gets called racist. We get called names all the time for our beliefs when we're trying to promote the truth. But Paul, how do you handle that? Because I think there's some people that either are watching now or be watching in the future that are like, I get called that, and I don't like it.
I think part of it's age. You know how they say older people just don't give a crap what other people think anymore? I'm getting there. But I think it's a combination of life circumstance. When I was growing up, I was not a cool kid. I was not in anything. I was, I didn't belong with the jocks. We called them burnouts, the ones who were, experimenting. I didn't really fit in. And I think that, growing through that, and then eventually being cool with the idea that I didn't necessarily fit in, that was helpful. Now, being a Christian, and I think fairly mature Christian, I'm told to count it all joy if I'm persecuted for Christ's sake. Now, am I persecuted because I'm preaching Christianity? No, we're just preaching the truth of God, the truth. Not that relative biscuit truth that everyone has, and therefore makes truth of no value at all. So those are the things I'm armed with.
Jarrett?
Yeah, I get called stuff all the time. White supremacist, the black face of white supremacy. I'm not black, I'm wearing this hat. Yeah, and it's funny because it's the same people who tell me, oh, we're here for these communities. We care about the impoverished. We care about the black communities. But as soon as I don't do what you want me to do, or I get off this Democratic plantation, they want to attack you. Same thing I feel with these schools. As a parent, I go to the schools, they like you, you're, dropping your kids off. But as soon as I complain or say something about what's going on at the school districts, oh, now you're a problem parent. Now you're, as the government said, now you're a terrorist. Or one of our friends with Mama Liberty, Kristen Kobo, she was literally sued by a librarian for standing up. And these type of things that just make me go further and make me go harder, because it's not going to stop me. I'm going to continue to fight. I'm going to continue to do God's work. And I think, a big thing is unity. So I love that everyone's unified. Everyone has their voices and we're fighting a good cause. And Paul, I love that you are a facilitator of that. You connect so many different groups. So, you connected me with so many like-minded people. So I think that's really important. But you're so genuine about it too. So why is it important, I would say, to be genuine in your approach? Because I feel the left is not genuine in their approach, but conservatives are.
Wow. Authenticity, man. Again, I think it's part of maturity is being comfortable in your own skin. And here's the other thing. I have this childlike, I take God at his word, seek and you shall find, knock, and it shall be answered. The door shall be opened. And Mike, your phrase about huge doors turn on small hinges. I make one phone call to a group called Every Black Life Matters, which is the conservative counterpart to BLM, which we don't hear much about anymore. Every Black Life Matters, because we were going to do that NEA convention in Philly. We want to see if they had anyone representing there that could come out to Philly. Well, it turned out they didn't have anyone to go to Philly, but the gentleman, Mr. McGarry, refers me to a guy named Michael Green, Pastor William Green. And Pastor William Green happens to have been launching this group called the Mordecai Mission. And they were having their inaugural meeting. And because I am a connector, I know that's one of the reasons I'm put on this earth. I had to hook up Pastor William Green with Jared Branch, and Jared could tell you, some of the fruit already that's being produced from that.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. And it's funny that you mentioned that group, because yesterday on the call, we had Dr. McGray. So he's a great guy. We talked about his ministry and everything they do. So it was fantastic. And that's funny that you mentioned it. See, that's why I say Paul's just a great connector. And again, you do it out of the kindness of your heart and for the kingdom. Yeah, the connection with the Mordecai missions has been phenomenal. They're so boots on the ground. And, you know, I love that. That's something about you. So, and it's something about Turning Point and Blexit. You know, we're really in the community. Same thing with Mike and 511 Media. We're in the community. So, Paul, I have a question for you. Why is it important for groups like this to actually go into the community and get from behind their computer screen?
Well, listen, I ran for office about 6 times, including state senator in New Jersey. And I'd always collect 1 out of 3 votes because I'm with the out of favor party. But one thing I know, and I learned from seasoned candidates who did a lot of door knocking, there's no, substitute for face-to-face, for a town hall, for a live meeting. Listen, this is all great on the flat screen, but even this, so much more when it's live and we're all together in the same room, which I hope we can be at some point. And I'm a teacher at heart. Listen, people need to be educated. They need to. There's a lot of folks who have a passion, they have a zeal, but not according to knowledge, especially on the progressive side. They're getting people all worked up, but there's no foundation for them to be worked up. When you start to give them with facts, notice how people get hostile when you start sharing facts with them, and they'll just go into an emotional tirade and kind of start name calling, right? Ad hoc approach and insult you. But I think there's such an opportunity to just help people understand a little bit more that true compassion is speaking the truth. That's where real compassion comes from, is born out of the truth, and that the truth should be delivered with love. I find that the conservatives, sometimes we're angry and we have a righteous indignation, but the anger comes across much more clearly than the love does. And I think, until people know how much you care, right? I don't want to be a tinkling cymbal and sounding brass, right?
That's right. That's right. And you mentioned the BLM and how we don't hear much about that anymore. And I wanted to make a quick comment about that. I think they got most of the money they're going to get out of that grift. So that's a lot of why you don't hear about it, because that's all it really was. But we talked about the media, we talked about school systems, and I think it's really, really interesting. Especially, we see more and more content on social media about this every day. People, they use these institutions to brainwash, and it's interesting, I think, and I'll play a video here in a second, Darius, but it's interesting which groups of people are the ones that believe a certain way, the way they've been taught and instructed to believe, and the groups of people that have those groups of people that have been brainwashed, and then the groups of people that are thinking for themselves. It's so interesting that the college educated people are the ones that they've had it hammered in their skulls, and they're the most intellectually educated, supposedly the smartest. I don't agree with that, but then you see the other groups of people. Most of them are the ones that have probably attended trade schools, or like myself, went into entrepreneurship, or had other careers that are the non-traditional, non-college educated people. And Darius, go ahead and play that video real quick.
Trump or Kamala? Kamala. Why is that?
I think it's obvious. That's all I have to say. Oh, absolutely Trump. All day, every day.
Why is that?
Because he's for America. He always has been for America. You go back to his interviews from the 80s. He's always loved America. I don't give a rat's ass about Kamala.
Trump or Kamala?
Kamala.
Why is that?
I can't begin to tell you. Every reason.
Just like one?
Yeah, democracy.
I would vote 12.
Their economy was better than Trump.
100%.
Kamala.
Why is that?
I think her rhetoric is empathetic.
Kamala.
Why?
Because she'll make sure that democracy endures in this country, and Trump will destroy democracy in this country.
What is your favorite thing that she's done so far in office?
She's brought joy back to this country.
Okay.
I'm thinking that I'm going to have to go with Trump, how the world is working, the reality of inflation in comparison to the increase of what people are being paid out. And it's really started to strike me.
Trump or Kamala?
Trump.
Why is that?
Because I'm in the housing industry and I'm from Texas. When he was in office, we were just growing and going and work. And since, the last 3.5 years, we see it diminishing now.
Why is that?
I don't know, maybe because her progressist ideas, something like that, but I'm not really sure.
Kanye.
So 3 things I want to point out about that video. Number 1 is who it was that was for Trump and who it was that was for Kamala. Number 2 is the reasons they're giving of why they're for Kamala and why they're for Trump. Everyone that was on that video had good reasons why they were voting Trump, and it wasn't necessarily about the person. It was about what they stand for. Every single person that said they were for Kamala couldn't give you any semblance of an answer. It was just, I don't know. Because if you read in between the lines, the subtext is because the media told me to. And number 3 is, and this is one you guys might not have caught, but I know Paul and Jarrett, because we talk about this, and I know Paul's, a part of TP Faith, has definitely heard this, because this is one of the big things Charlie talks about, Charlie Kirk. For those of you who don't know, they keep using this word democracy. We're not a democracy, guys. We're a constitutional republic. There's a reason that they keep saying democracy. And Paul, I'm going to let you talk about this because you're an educated man, and I know you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I've been paying attention. It's amazing. I had a pretty decent public school education. What I know is that it is a republic, a representative form of government, and government, let's face it, guys, government of the people, by the people, for the people was meant for a moral and religious people. You guys remember the John Adams quote, right? This Constitution was designed for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the governing of any other. And the question I have right back at you is, are we as a society so far gone where we've lost that right? And I say, listen, I can't help but be optimistic. We wouldn't be here otherwise. That, you know what? There's enough of a remnant of people who still remember why we are exceptional and where our rights come from, right? Yep. And there's a lot of people who are just, they're in slumber and they can be reached, and we got to wake them up. And that's where we're at, man. The fields are white with the harvest. We're not just saving, yes, we're going to save the republic, but that I think should be a byproduct of saving lost souls. I mean, we're all about the Great Commission. Everything else will fall into place from what we do with that in mind.
Yeah, and guys, if you're watching, if one of our team can share out that video, ask me later, and I'll make sure you know which one. But we'll be sharing that on most of our social media platforms, so y'all know what I'm talking about. But the reason, one of the big reasons they keep saying democracy is because that just gets us one step closer, ultimately, to what they ultimately want, which. The next step is socialism. The next step after that is communism. They keep calling us fascists. So there's a reason why they're gaslighting, because they want us to look like the bad guys, because they want everybody to be brainwashed, again, brainwashing via the media and public school system into the direction they want you to go. But guys, if you pay attention, they're telling us exactly who they are, but most people just aren't paying enough attention. I got another video that kind of goes over this one. That's a Chad Prather video. Darius, let's bring that up.
So back in the 1950s, the Chinese developed a slogan, the Three Red Banners, which was for the propagation and building of the socialist state in China. It stood for the People's Commune, the socialist construction, and the Great Leap Forward. Now, if you look around at some things that are going on with Democrats these days, I mean, there's the DNC. I don't know if you see the three red. Anyway, I mean, it goes back a little ways to this guy right here. That's interesting. Oh, and then when his successors, which was actually Obama 2.0, when they three red banners, and look, even C-SPAN got in on it. Interesting stuff. If you just pay attention, it's right in front of you.
Yeah, guys are telling you exactly who they are. If you pay attention, just like Chad said.
Yep, they're hiding in plain sight. They're hiding in plain sight, and they want to take advantage of us. And it's just failed policy. It's just failed policy throughout the world. None of this stuff has ever worked. You can't point to one instant where communism or socialism actually made a society better, but they push these lies onto us all the time, and they just want us to believe them. And I think it's because people don't have the information, or they're ignoring the information. That's why I love groups like 511 Media. That's why I probably love what you do. You make it apparent to get the information out to the people who actually need it, and not just to the echo chamber. And we have a few minutes left, so I just wanted to, Paul, ask you, why is it important to step out of our comfort zone and talk to people, and Mike too, and talk to people not in our echo chamber?
Hey, listen. When Jesus came, he didn't hang out with the well. He didn't hang out with. He came, and hung out with the sick. He hung out with the outcasts. And if I'm a teacher at heart, I'm not going to I'm not going to preach to the choir. I always say we got to preach beyond the choir. I love teaching. I love illuminating the truth. I love helping ask the questions that lead people, because I learned in sales a long time ago, if you say something, people will doubt it. But if you, through questioning, get them to say the same thing, it becomes the gospel truth. So it's not only reaching out to those folks. I think the mistake, and I still make it, because that's why I didn't make my first $1 million in sales, is that we don't want to be the ones talking all the time. We better become a hell of a lot better listeners if we want to be more effective in communication. And I'll leave it at that.
That's right. And, to kind of echo and give my spin on what Paul said is, if we're just all the time talking to the echo chamber, preaching to the choir, they already know. They already believe the things. But we had, and I hope she doesn't mind me mentioning her name, but Viv Ivy, who's starting to do some stuff with us on our show yesterday, and she's someone who was red pilled. She's one of the staunchest conservatives I've seen now, but she used to be even in some of the movements that we all speak against all the time: BLM, Antifa, veganism, the protests and all the things. And forgive me, Viv, if I'm misrepresenting you in any way. But she started questioning, and when she started questioning, she switched sides, and because the other side doesn't want you questioning. The other side just wants you to believe and stay in line and not step out of line in any way, shape, or form. And guys, we need to be, and I think we've historically been, now there's some fringes on both sides, but we've historically been the side that embraces people and not just accepts, but welcomes questions. But we need to, as Paul said, and I think this, I praise God every day for giving me this gifting of staying quiet sometimes. And obviously, on this show, this is our show. We that's not our job to stay quiet on this show. But when I'm having conversations in the day-to-day, ask a lot more questions than making statements, and spend more of the time allowing the other person to speak than speaking yourself. And I think that it's going to produce better results when we do that.
Yeah, I think spot on. Paul, I think you're right. We do need to listen more because a lot of people are leaving the Democratic Party because they don't feel listened to. They feel like they're being ignored because the current Democratic Party doesn't represent Democrats. I didn't change. I may be more conservative, but I never changed. My party left me. My party went to extreme. My party that I used to be a part of attacked my face, told me I had to vote this way because I was black, said that I couldn't complain about the tragedies or how the government is destroying the inner city. He said, you just have to accept it because it's my black job to vote Democrat. Which is just asinine. Anytime they bring identity politics and say you're supposed to do something, whether you're black or white or this or that, that's completely wrong. It's a fallacy. So I'm so glad that Paul, you came on the show today and we got to talk to you. This is such a great interview. We definitely want you to come back. It's been fantastic. And just before we go, please can you let us know anything that you're currently doing or how can someone reach you if they want to work with you? Because again, guys, from my personal experiences, like Paul's one of my go-tos. I mean, and again, you guys know, I and Mike as well, we don't just blow smoke. Like we won't say anything unless we actually truly believe it. And I'm saying, guys, Paul's one of the top guys you can go to discuss all this stuff. And he's so genuinely willing to help anyone who is willing to help themselves. Let's see that too. You guys got to do the work. This, again, we have to leave the whole 10% of the people doing 90% of the work. We need 100% of the people doing 100% of the work for this to work. So Paul, how can they get in touch with you if they want to reach you?
I'm not shy about giving out contact information, but my wife would kick me under the table if she knew I was broadcasting it far and wide. But I guess I could give my email address, my personal email address, Paul, not the number, FOR, the preposition, NJ as in New Jersey @gmail.com. And I am getting some a website set up with the Mordecai Mission. We're getting it revamped and upgraded. And I will have another email address attached to that. And that's my passion because the Mordecai Mission is looking to put a born-again Christian in the presidency by 2028. They're looking to get people to help strike down ungodly legislation and to have enough impact when we're no longer the silent majority to put forth godly legislation. I think that's a good approach.
Amen.
Thank you,
Amen.
gentlemen. It's been an honor, and I have so much more of 61 years worth. But I love being here. And Jared, thank you for opening that door. Mike, thank you for making it so easy and so smooth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, guys, hopefully you connect with Paul, especially if you're in the New Jersey, am I saying this right? Tri-state area. But guys, take a word from this for a minute. Let's listen to those that are a little older, have a little more experience, that are educated, that have their eyes open, that are thinking critically for themselves and not just falling in line with what the media and the systems are telling us we have to think and believe. Get away from these identity politics, and guys, go again. If you're in that area, reach out to Paul. Reach out to Jared also. We're going to be there in just a couple of weeks at the Night of Faith in Philadelphia. So, guys, thanks for watching. Have a great day. God bless.